Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Small Business Stories. You know the voice, Dr. LL, Loralyn Mears, founder of Steeris, and bringing you all kinds of wonderful guests every week. It's amazing, and our show is growing in popularity, so we're not just bringing one or two shows per week, but we're cranking that up because you're asking for more. I love it. Our guests love it. We appreciate you. Today in the house, we've got Vernessa Hopkins. She is the founder of VHH Consulting. You're thinking, eponymous, yes. But more specifically, what she's all about is unlocking your influence and teaching people how to rise up, to lead, be present, and be noticed. Vernessa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
All right. Well, we like to give people the visual experience. As I say, this is how we start the show because we've got a lot of folks who tune in via Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever. They don't get the YouTube video experience. So I always like to describe the background. Vanessa's got a very lovely backdrop here with her name and signature, and part of her podcast for Own Your Path and this lovely decal and background. Anything else you want to add where you're dialing in from and give our folks a little context?
Absolutely. I am from Pennsylvania. I'm in the northern suburbs of Philly. So I cheat and tell people I'm Philly. Um, and I have been consulting for over 10 plus years from my corporate career to here. I have a couple businesses, but this is the one that feeds me back. I love helping people find their empowerment. And so I do local or virtual support, speaking, training, anything that helps somebody own and be empowered, I'm there for.
Excellent. And you talk about like, oh, you're from Pennsylvania. I think we can let that slide. As a Canadian, people ask where I'm from, and I say Toronto because people are either from Toronto or Vancouver. There's like the rest of the Canada, like just doesn't matter, right? It's one of the two. Yeah, no,
Exactly. And if I
right?
try to get details, they're like, wait a minute, the truth's coming out.
Right, right. Yeah, well, actually, as I say, my conversations end up going the other way, where they're like, "Oh, do you know?" I'm like, "No, Toronto has, like 6, 7 million people in the GTA. I mean, come on, right? Not happening. People just don't get it." But where I want to get this really dialed in, because I think it's so important, is how we leverage influence to drive leadership. I think a lot of people are missing that disconnect. They think, I'm in the title. Look at me. I'm all that in a bag of potato chips. I'm spiffy, and therefore I lead. Talk to us about breaking that myth down and why influence is really at the core of everything.
Yeah, and it was a journey for me to even get there and have that aha moment of what was my strength strategized. And it's being influential in the moment. So, what I like to summarize is what got you there won't keep you there, right? So, it is about transitioning your thought and influencing and building your team and business to its full potential. But it all has to start with you. So, we are influential just as simple as how we dress to go to the market, right? If I'm in jammies, don't talk to me, right? But if I'm coming in and I'm engaging and have that eye attention, someone may ask me about, the price of that egg or have that conversation. So that's it in the simplest form, but networking and partnering, influencing your brand for when how people talk about you when you're not in the room is a powerful tool that we leave on the table for the most part. So we can think about how we hone in our strengths and strategize to be influential with them. That is going to help drive your confidence to win your best actor award, because those are many days where I have to do that. Yes, all my invisible enemies, I like to say that all the time. They're just all around me. Um, but it's also about understanding the tool. Influencers for social media didn't just come about. It is, I convince people to pay attention to me. And let's be very careful, not be someone who I'm not, but it's really about owning who you are and using that as a strength to really get someone to understand how you relate in the world, how you communicate, how you network. You don't have to be the loudest one to be the most influential. Quiet is more powerful sometimes, which being quiet, but it's just as powerful when you know how to embrace it and how to use it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So there's a few things, few angles I want to get into here. So, one, us gals, we're dressed, we're fluffed, right? The effort's been made. For those of you not having the visual experience, you're missing out. But anyway, that said, there's a lot of chatter now about how people are showing up to go to the airport, for example, how they're dressing for flights. Now, we know things have come a long way since the 1950s and 60s, where people wore their finest, their Sunday best to get on a flight and travel, right? Okay, great. Like I'm thinking of the Philip Morris commercial, Virginia Slims, right? You've come a long way, baby. Okay, great. Now we can choose what we want to wear. There's so many options to be more comfortable, those transcontinental flights, et cetera, et cetera. But what's happened is just like we've gone to business casual, which people think means black leggings and a crop top. And I see it on Wall Street. It's crazy. I'm there every week. It's nuts. And then on the flights, when I travel, I feel like I'm the only business person in the airport because everybody else is in sweatpants, leggings, ripped hoodies. And I'm thinking, what in the what has happened? Can they still hold that level of influence? Because society has taught us on YouTube that it doesn't matter, that you can just be viral with whatever. Like, what's going on? Help us understand that angle of leadership and influence because I still believe how we show up matters. Doesn't it anymore?
It does. I believe the definition of how you show up has been influenced. So, to that extent, we've transitioned from the business suit, the professional attire as being not approachable in some areas, right? Even in the office space where you used to have an office, now you have cubicles where you're sitting out with everybody because you're one of them, you know? Forget about having a personal conversation that you need to do about performance. We're trying to make leadership approachable, and a lot of people drive that into loosen up the tie, relax and embrace that you can have a conversation with me because I'm just like you. And a lot of people have accepted that norm. And, COVID really brought it in, because all of us working from home and, dress from, the top up and all that kind of stuff. So it is a professional style. And what I would tell you is it's based on what do you want your brand to be known for? Because in some situations, that relaxed look isn't approachable for, can this person really give me guidance to where I need to go? Because I just don't see it in them, right? To a professional look of they can help me, or, they are not approachable because they're all about business. Some people, it's a perception based role. So, what method do you decide to have? If you go in the next day with pink hair, you're making a choice. It doesn't mean it's a bad choice or anything, but you're deciding how you want someone to be brand creative, right? It doesn't mean it's bad. Creative, outgoing, can change your mind, be versatile, you know, or okay, I can't put you in front of executives that make six figures because they're not even going to listen to you. They're going to be looking at your hair. It is a delicate balance that has to be respected, but it's a decision that you're making of how you want to present yourself to the world. And depending on the industry and depending on what your potential is, how do you show someone that you're ready to work or ready to put the time in or ready to collaborate? If I don't see an effort being made, you're leaving it open for me to make my own perception. And it is a balance of doing your homework before you show up to be strategic on how you want to influence people on who you are and how you want to connect.
And I think people take it too literally on either end, right? Like there
Mhm.
is always that bell curve, I believe, to everything, right? We want to aim for some imaginary midpoint. But the thing is, people take it literally. We say, oh, we embrace business casual and show up, be yourself, be authentic. and they come in. I've seen them, and I mentor a lot of younger folks. They're in their club wear with the, vinyl poly mini skirts that are so short they double as a belt, right? They're really not skirts. And then you look at that, and they've got the big earrings and the big nails and the platform heels. Like, I get it. You look fabulous, but in the club, maybe not so much in the office. And young men I see in that other side, and they come in, and they're like, well, what do you want me to do? I like my shirt untucked. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get ready for an interview and not be, be someone I'm not. And I tell them, I'm not saying have a tuxedo and go in and be crazy. Just saying,
Mhm.
can you just tuck in your shirt or wear a belt in your jeans? Right? Like, it's not big steps, but people, I think, and from what I've seen, are really pushing against that and saying, I will model my own brand for leadership. And I'm curious to see what you're seeing. Is there that range, or because you work generally with an executive sect, that they push against that and there's some multi-generational, I guess, discord? Like, what are you seeing, Vernessa, around all this?
It is the culture of the business that you're in, or organization or company that you work for. So it's really, and who your clientele is. Those are the things that really determine. So if, for example, you want to be appreciated and valued for who you are, what are you doing to allow someone to know what that is? And is your appearance being a deterrent or a supportive focus of where you need to go? So it's a lot of not black and white. And that's what really this generation of new people coming into leadership, new coming into work is going, accept me for who I am, and get to know who I am. So as long as you can answer the question, and what have you done in from a networking presentation, because we see what we assess with our eyes first. It's just, what we do. Half of the reality shows where they only hear your voice, right? From singing to dating and all those kind of things, is to, ignore all of that. And then as soon as they turn around, what do? They still assess based on what they're seeing, right? And want to change some things. So it is a balance of the reality that you're dealing with. And those decisions have to be yours, but understand what the full picture means. So if you make that choice, then what are you allowing, um, for people to understand who you are and what your brand is? And that's where you understanding what your strengths are and how to strategically be able to present yourself in that way is the key to owning that power and owning that comfort. I'm evaluated and assessed as soon as I walk in the door, and then people are surprised you own a business, you've been an executive in corporate, you've been, they it's and I'm like, and why are we surprised? you know but it is this assumption that we just humanly make. So it is our balance, I wouldn't say requirement, but our balance to make sure that we create an open opportunity for someone to get to know me. So if I came on your show today with pink hair, right? That would have been like, okay, that's a choice. And then hopefully, if I start talking and articulating myself, you can go, okay, that pink really just pops. It's a deterrent as long as that's the only thing I left you with. I leave it open to your interpretation, and everyone has their own interpretation of everything. So it is a delicate balance, but the only way you can control it is understanding your strengths and how you portray that. Give someone a break, right?
Yeah.
You, okay, if you leave it up to interpretation, what are they saying? What are they showing? And then how do you make sure they get to know who you are authentically, so that you leave them with the brand you want them to know. Hopefully that answered your
Oh, yeah,
question.
absolutely. Again, and I'm all about embracing those personal choices. I have had a guest in my 250 plus episodes with pink hair. I've had a guest with blue hair, and
Mhm.
I had a male guest who prefers to wear very high heels and have them custom made. So I get the range of everybody. You shouldn't judge, But we do. All the
right?
studies say 2 to 3 seconds, boom, right? Don't judge a
Yep,
book by its cover. We've done it. And then when you
always.
open your mouth, you have about 7 seconds until people decide if I'm going to be scrolling my social media or tuning into whatever it is you're going to say. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that is the reality. And if you say it's unfair, I want you to sit there and tell me you don't do it too. So it is about, so you hear the jargon of, make sure you have your tagline or make sure you have your presentation and all those things. Those first couple seconds of an interaction are very powerful. And if you leave them to interpretation, you've lost an opportunity to really be influential on them getting to know who you are, that you can rock whatever you put on. You can command a room once you walk in because you're confident with that opening statement of this is who I am. I always have to deal with my name is Vernessa, not Vanessa. 99.9% of this world is going to call me Vanessa, right? So I have to do things to go, my name is Vernessa Hopkins. I'm named after my father's name is Vernon. So there you go. I couldn't talk to have a say in it, right? So, you know, so it's those little things and how I go, how I choose to manage it and handle it shows, oh, she's just so sensitive, or oh, she's fine. You know, those little things are powerful tools for someone to get to know your personality, who you are, and that they want to engage with you. So, all of those things can't be ignored or allowed to frustrate you because they're just human reactions, and we all have our preferences. So we categorize a pass or fail checklist of, the expectations that we have, right? What we do with it from that point on and giving someone a chance to really get to know them is the choice, the power of being influential with that statement. So taking it to that next step is where we show maturity, we show engagement, and really the character of who we are. So if we allow people to educate, that I don't like, vegetables. I do. But, let's say, but you would know, right? So I have to go and talk about, my favorite meal was, more a carb starch thing, right? Now I've educated this person and, if a veggie tray comes, she's not going to be the one that wants it. Just that simple influence, let them know who I am and a little bit about my story. And now, honestly, I have something to talk about. What do you mean you don't like vegetables? How are you getting your vitamins? It you can look at it as half empty, half full. It can start a debate or it can start an engaging conversation. It's about controlling that pendulum so that it benefits you, influencing someone to really just know the quality of character of who you are because it's worth the effort.
And I think that says it all, really. It's about how we react to it. You talk about getting your name wrong, that folks get it wrong. I can imagine I had to do a double check. I'm like, oh, wait, wait, wait. She's not Vanessa. She's Vernessa. Got
Mhm.
it. And I didn't think Vernon. I thought Vern like Fern. Okay, I'm there. I get called Lorraine. I don't know, Lorraine Myers. There's no Y in my last name, and it's Loralyn. I mean, to me, I've been saying it for 50 years, so it's pretty clear to me. But I would say 70, 80% of the time I get called Lorraine Myers. And I'm not going to say, excuse me, like, what part did you miss? Did you miss that second L? Like, what are we doing here? Right? Because there's no point given the
Right.
opportunity. If people say, oh, wait, did I get your name right? No. Let me
Right.
correct you, right? But if not, next, who cares?
Mhm.
I got bigger fish to fry. Right. But
Mhm.
again, it's how you present and how you show up. So how you want people to react. Do you want to be putting up more walls and barriers and saying, you got my name wrong, back off? Right. And
Mhm.
putting those defenses up or going, okay, let's flow with it. All right, yeah, let's talk about vegetables, Vanessa. Why don't you like vegetables? Gee, I love vegetables, right? Or
Mhm.
whatever, right? Silliness.
Mhm. Right. And that's how quickly a conversation, whether it's with family, right? Friends, co-workers, everything, because your perception is absolutely reality. It is. It's yours, right? So it is about the intent versus the actual action. And when we can see it
Mhm.
versus just feel it, that is the power of, influencing because, you never know who's observing you. You think you do, you never know. And they're trying to see how you handle challenging things. How do you, do I want to bring you along because all the other stuff is going to come and I don't want it, So it is, or you know what? Her energy is really good. And that's how your brand works when you're not in the room, and that's the power of being influential, like and with a strategy so that people are talking about you in the way that you really want it to go.
Oh, bingo, bingo. So that's a really great segue, I think, for your formula, which is the influence equation. What does that mean? What is it? How do we use it?
I went through a matrix of thought. So I call it the influence matrix. We put it all together and we have the equation. It's about taking yourself, your identifying what your strengths are, how they interact in a business, personal, all those kind of things, and put a strategic focus to it of self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and then let's get to work. Let's really give you two or three staple statements that can keep you grounded in those most challenging conversations, elevating and empowering you to be a leader wherever it is, as well as really giving you your full potential for your career path. So I created an online training that has about 8 to 9 steps to it, but it breaks it down for you to help you identify your strengths, help you identify those power questions, regardless if you're in a meeting, networking, or anything like that. Here's how you can be influential no matter where you are. And then, practicing that and enabling yourself to really focus on your career pathing and leadership, whether it's putting the spark back into it. Um, you know, Leaders are developed, managers are chosen, right? So it's really about your return on investment. You're coming and you're giving your all, but leadership is really about building the people under you. So once you identify what your strengths are, you can absolutely influence change, culture, diversity, all this kind of stuff, because the secret sauce is you. And once we figure out you and your confidence and what gets you comfortable, my first module really talks about owning your comfort zone. People say stay out of your comfort zone. I tell you to jump in it. And they go, what? I'm like, jump in it. Because what we break down is, well, why is this your comfort zone? What is it about it that puts you at ease? And then how do we bring that with you as you go into these uncomfortable situations? So we start there and build on it. And I really developed it to be the influence equation because it's a mix of a couple of things that we define and put together, and it's yours. It's customized to you, and what makes you tick so that you are showing your brand and in your confidence. You're not a different person. You are you enhanced. And that, I learned from the school of hard knocks coming up where I had no mentor. I had no, I was figuring things out. I fell into some right things at the right time. Um, you know, been through some things, some scars. And I like to tell my clients I got the scars so you don't have to. And that is where I came up with the influence equation. And hopefully my book will be out by the end of this year. But that's what motivates me. And when I see my clients allow themselves to really reach their potential using the equation, that's what gets me excited about what I get to do.
Excellent. So, one of the things I'm really curious about, of course, we'll never tell tales about clients. I never ever ask that things. But in general terms, Vernessa, talk to us about where clients get hung up as you're coaching them and helping them be better leaders and be more influential. Where do most folks get hung up? Are there a couple of places that you can share what's going on with that?
There's a couple places, right? So from a personal perspective of my clients in general, they get stuck in limiting their potential. Of, oh, I can't do that, or I shouldn't do that. And they almost give the power to someone else, which leads to the other challenge. And then that challenge is that they um, look at the barrier as the reason why they can't do what they need to do. Now, let me be crystal clear. Sometimes it's absolutely a barrier. Sometimes it's absolutely correct. But what do you do with that information? Okay. So you have decisions that you can make. And it still starts with, well, what are your strengths? What do you really like to do? And we can decide and have better influential conversations and strategic conversations for whatever that next step needs to be. So the top trend, especially with all the changes that are happening right now, there's a lot of layoffs. The news are not even reporting as many that are happening right now. And then there's a lot of, work more with less and those type. That's always been there. Um, and it is taking that doer focus as well as, but you're in a leadership role. So that delegation part and it being viewed as an empowerment versus a task oriented venture. So the biggest thing that I have to help them identify is what their strengths are. And then how is that portrayed to the people that are reporting to you or the job that you want? So we start talking a little different. We work on, questions and strategies. And then the other, just to give an example on the other biggest challenge is that barrier, right? That person, I'm not in the clique. I am not, let's just, I was a minority executive in the financial industry.
Not too
I'm
many of
very,
you.
no,
Minority female
and
executive, we might add, for those that don't have the
right.
full visual experience. Yes.
Yes, it was a visual experience. I was standing alone and and that was it and it came with all of its benefits and challenges. So I feel comfortable speaking from that perspective, but your perception is reality. It is just as intense for you, period. And why, right? So there's some things that we have to do to reset ourselves. I'm always going to wake up a female Black woman. Newsflash. When I look in the mirror, guess what? She's still there. So I can either use that as use it as fuel or stay in that moment because that's the reason why things are happening. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, but what can I control? And what I can control is my strategy of what I want to do and how I want to be relatable. And when they do talk about me, what will they have to say? Those are the things that can't be taken away from you. And those are the things that we switch to drive, and then we can sit with our shoulders up as this crap this is happening. But you can make the decisions and you can stay in the driver's seat. The last thing I'll say is on this is in my office on the back wall, and I've had it since I've been in leadership, is my quote that I go, don't be mad at where you're parked when you let someone else drive.
Excellent. Ooh, I love that. I've never heard that one. I got the little little goosebumps going
Yep.
with that one. Woo!
That's all
Like it.
mine. And I share it as much as I can, as I said, it's on my office wall. Like it is something that has reset me, and using those cues to reset yourself, give yourself a break. What do you need to reset your focus off of what isn't fair, right? Or what is challenging or what looks unattainable? Am I giving up those controls? And it's not about fight, fight, fight. It's about get strategic with it, get influential with it, because that is where you can stay in the driver's, you can keep your sanity and have this issue have a moment and not a day.
Woo! More good stuff. Ooh, I like it. We're gonna have fun with the notes on this one. There's gonna be all kinds of hot button topics. So, but stitching it back to the beginning of our podcast, it really is about, I believe in, just for the role you want, right? So
Right.
that there's some of that. And then coming back to where strengths can inform strategy, right? Taking a data informed approach. I'm all about that. As a PhD scientist, you got to think about these things and use data to your advantage and not be afraid of it. When Forbes came out with Strengths Finder, Have you ever done this?
Oh,
And
yeah.
yes, okay. So it came out, I don't know what the years were, 2000-ish, turn of the last century, right? I did it then, and then I did the whatever, 20th or 25th edition, whatever the numbers were. And of course, they just added 10 more strengths. But I came out with the same three strengths 20 years apart. And what I loved, that this is the book I talk about all the time because it changed my life. It told me I didn't have to worry about, okay, they were 24 then. The other 21 I wasn't good at and was probably never going to be good at. I should pick people on my team with those strengths that are complementary to surround myself with, and I should just anchor in, like you said, and own my top three. My top three being woo, win others over, influence, ha ha ha, communication, and strategy. And
Mhm.
that's for me, it's unlocked, like you say, unlock your influence is your sight. So much for me because once I realized what my strengths were, everything I did was leaning into them and then coming up with a strategy on how to harness them. And I think
Right.
that's the gap that so many people can't overcome because they don't know where to start. And that's why I think it's fantastic that you've got your program, like the influence equation, get started.
Exactly. And the first part of that is taking that concept from Forbes. I created a self-assessment as well called I call the five whys. So if we take your strength of strategy, we ask the question why five times. So why is that? Because that is what is portrayed to the world. But why is that your strength? What it feeds you? And if we can dig down to that, that's what we actually build your strategy off of. So that strategic focus that you have is the end result because you understand what you are always chasing after to make sure that that strategic focus shows. So that's where the work comes in, but the excitement of, oh, it shows us strategic because I actually like it when I blank, you know? And that assessment is on my website. It's free to do. But it is the five whys. I stole it from a concept that the IT industry would use to solve a problem.
Yeah, root
Um,
cause analysis. Yeah.
yes, yes. So I just took it and I made it for people. So
And why
because it
not,
is
right?
right.
Yeah.
It's a conceptual approach because my strategy is I love for people to have that aha moment, right? That's what feeds me. But why do I need that? And I was using a lot of questions to get someone there that could either drive them crazy or make them excited. But me understanding the core of why I do that allows me to get there in two or three questions versus 10, right? So that because I'm going to do it, but I need to make sure I'm doing it in a way that I'm not gregarious for someone who needs to be an introvert. I am, meeting the tone of who I'm working with, so it's theirs, and they get to own it and embrace like I am a rock star, absolutely. And now we're going to make sure everybody knows it, and that is the first step. Um, buying in and believing that I can be myself, have this strategy, and really put that equation together. So it doesn't matter person, business, leadership, business growth. When you understand yourself and how to articulate yourself, especially if you're the leader or owner of a business, you're investing in your most expensive commodity, and that's people. And if you can do that change management part of it and get people to buy in, that is where you're working smart and you're valuing, the people who are there with you. And especially even if it's yourself, there's the win for it all together.
All right. So as we're wrapping up our show here, you've got your podcast, Own Your Path. Can you
Yes.
tell our listeners where they can find you online?
Yes. If you go to unlockyourinfluence.com, that is my website. There's a podcast page right on there that you can click to, and we'll have all the current episodes on there. And it's like manager versus leader, all that kind of fun stuff is on there as well. And then if any services, I'm always doing the influence equation classes, sales training, leadership training. one-on-one. I work with businesses and I also do speaking engagements. I'm certified in change management. This is the stuff I love. So if I can help someone open to their fullest potential, please reach out. I'd be happy to assist.
Excellent. So, with that, last question, our signature question of the show. If we got a peek in your near Pennsylvania closet and we saw
Ooh.
a pair of footwear, boots, shoes, something that best personifies who you are, what are we looking at and why is that footwear Vernessa Hopkins?
Oh, my kids will answer this very quickly. It is rhinestone sparkle sneakers. That is my jam. I love the sparkle. I absolutely do. And that is because that is me. My goal is no one takes my smile. No one. And that just makes me feel nice and shiny inside. So you would find the most beauteous rhinestone, sparkle, blue. I have diamond, you name it, I have it. That's what you're going to find.
Oh, excellent. As a fellow glitter girl, I'd like to thank you, Vernessa Hopkins, founder of VHH Consulting, podcast Own Your Path, and website Unlock Your Influence, for coming by our show today. Really appreciate seeing you here. And, like, yeah, go get them, go sparkle.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.